All right, folks, brace yourselves, because believe it or not, Donald Trump's authoritarian and lawless deportations just got a hell of a lot worse, because a Trump-appointed federal judge just declared in a court ruling that he believes the Trump administration just deported a 2-year-old American citizen without meaningful due process. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. Folks, I want to play this short clip of a local reporter explaining the situation. Then we will actually read the court order and additional reporting from Politico surrounding it. Shocking, disturbing stuff.
Documents reveal a 2-year-old born in New Orleans was deported this morning to Honduras along with the child's mother and sister. Politico reporting that the Trump administration officials say in court that the mother wished to take the child out of the country. The judge in this case said he hoped to verify that and accuse the federal government of deporting a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process. A hearing scheduled for May 16th.
Yeah. Shocking, disturbing, especially when you consider, again, it came from a Trump-appointed federal judge. Not some sort of Marxist communist, but a Trump-appointed conservative judge. Let's take a look at the court order. Before the court is a petition for writ of habeas corpus and an emergency motion for temporary restraining order on behalf of VML. VML is ostensibly a 2-year-old United States citizen. On April 24th, 2025, this court received a petition contending that VML was being deported alongside her illegal immigrant mother to Honduras. And this is how you can tell this guy is indeed a conservative judge, because it doesn't say an undocumented migrant, it's illegal immigrant, right? Which tends to be a bit more MAGA conservative language. I digress. Of course, quote, it is illegal and unconstitutional to deport, detain for deportation, or recommend deportation of a U.S. citizen. They cite the law according to this, which, by the way, Donald Trump should probably make note of before he talks about, I'm going to send the homegrowns to El Salvador, right? As long as it obeys the law, like, yeah, but it clearly violates the law, dumbass, so you can't do that. Why are you suggesting that you might be able to? Anyway, I digress. So, let's see here. The government contends that this is all okay because the mother wishes that the child be deported with her. But the court doesn't know that. Seeking the path of least resistance, the court called the counsel for the government at 12:19 p.m. Central Time so that we could speak with VML's mother and survey her consent and custodial rights. The court was independently aware at the time that the plane, and gives the tail number, was above the Gulf of America. See, again, not Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America. The court was then called back by counsel for the government at 1:06 p.m., informing the court that a call with VML's mother would not be possible because she, and presumably VML, had just been released in Honduras. In the interest of dispelling our strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process, it is ordered that the matter be set for hearing at 9 a.m. on May 16, 2025 at the Monroe Federal Courthouse. I want to restate that again. In the interest of dispelling our strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process. Yeah. Holy shit. So let's look at the original Politico article, which broke the story. Judge says 2-year-old U.S. citizen appears to have been deported with no meaningful process. The girl was deported Friday with her mother to Honduras, despite her father's efforts to keep her in the United States. A federal judge is raising alarms that the Trump administration deported a 2-year-old U.S. citizen to Honduras with no meaningful process, even as the child's father was frantically petitioning the courts to keep her in the country. U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty, a Trump appointee, said the child, identified in court papers by the initials VML, appeared to have been released in Honduras earlier Friday, along with her Honduran-born mother and sister, who had been detained by immigration officials earlier in the week. The judge on Friday scheduled a hearing for May 16th, which he said was, quote, in the interest of dispelling our strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process. The child, whose redacted U.S. birth certificate was filed in court and showed she was born in New Orleans in 2023, had been with her mother and sister during a regular immigration check-in at the New Orleans Office of Immigration and Customs Enforcement on Tuesday. Officials there detained them and queued them up for deportation. Trump administration officials said in court that the mother told ICE officials that she wished to take VML with her to Honduras. The filing included a handwritten note in Spanish they claimed was written by the mother and confirmed her intent. But the judge said he'd hoped to verify that information. And again, it quotes, quote, the government contends this is all okay because the mother wishes the child be deported with her, but the court doesn't know that. The court battle ignited Thursday when lawyers for the family filed an emergency petition in the Western District of Louisiana seeking VML's immediate release from ICE custody and a declaration that the girl's detention had been unlawful. The petition was filed under the name Trish Mack, who lawyers indicated had been asked by VML's lawyer to act as the child's custodian and take her home from ICE custody. Lawyers for The Guardian told the court that VML's father had been attempting to contact the girl's mother to discuss plans for their child, but ICE officials denied him the chance to have a substantive phone call. Big problem. Big problem. Big problem really under any circumstances, but hella big problem given that she is a 2-year-old American citizen. He says ICE allowed the two to speak for about 1 minute on Tuesday while the mother was in ICE custody, but that they were unable to make any meaningful decisions about their child. As a U.S. citizen, VML is likely to have the ability to return to the United Likely. Likely. Sad that we're at the point where it's, I'm pretty sure. Setting her case apart from others who have drawn nationwide attention in recent weeks, such as the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Salvadorian native was deported to a prison in his home country in violation of a 2019 immigration court order. But the Louisiana case is the latest concern by courts that the Trump administration's rush to carry out deportations is violating due process rights. In this case, the rights of a U.S. citizen child. Doughty said he attempted to investigate the emergency matter himself on Friday, seeking to get VML's mother on the phone to determine whether ICE's representation about her desire to bring VML to Honduras was accurate. The judge said he was, quote, independently aware that the plane he believed was carrying the family was already above the Gulf of America. The Trump administration lawyers called the judge back Friday afternoon, said a phone call would not be possible because she'd just been released in Honduras. Doughty then scheduled the May hearing. Doughty is based in Monroe, Louisiana, about 100 miles north of the staging facility in Alexandria, where lawyers who filed the petition said they believed the mother and her daughters were being held prior to their deportation. Doughty's sharp criticism of the Trump administration is particularly notable because he's issued a series of major decisions in favor of Trump and his allies in recent years, most notably backing conservatives in legal challenges to the Biden administration's efforts to rein in what it claimed was misinformation on social media platforms about vaccines and certain politically charged topics. Indeed, some conservatives consider Doughty so likely to be in their camp that they filed lawsuits in his judicial division in order to have a strong chance that the cases be assigned to him. So let's be clear. This guy was appointed by Donald Trump. He has sided with conservatives in high-profile cases against President Biden, and conservatives find him so dependable that they forum shop, they judge shop to try to get him. And even he is saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys just deported a U.S. citizen, a 2-year-old, without meaningful due process. Holy shit. Even as Doughty made clear he was disturbed by the government's actions, in his order Friday, the judge seemed to tip his hat to the president, adopting the term Gulf of America for the body of water traditionally known as the Gulf of Mexico. Again, something that I noted as well in my analysis. So, yeah, when you're scaring the shit out of conservative judges that you yourself appointed, we got a problem. We got a problem. And again, I just want to point something out here. So we recently discussed the bombshell New York Times Siena College poll, which has Trump underwater. Remember, this is from Analysis Afterwards, talking about perspectives of these polls. First, his sweeping claims of executive power. Already, a majority of voters say Trump is exceeding his powers as president. Just 31% of voters approved his handling of the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, his lowest approval rating in the poll, and he would find himself on even weaker footing should he push further. Just 11% say he should be able to send U.S. citizens to prison in El Salvador, as he suggested last week. Only 6% say he should be able to ignore Supreme Court rulings. So my point is, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is an adult and a non-citizen, because of the lack of due process afforded to him by the Trump administration, is already causing the Trump administration to hemorrhage support on a key issue, immigration, right? So imagine what this could do. It's like, oh yeah, you shipped off a 2-year-old U.S. citizen to a foreign country without meaningful due process. This could be a further nail in the political coffin for Donald Trump. And perhaps it should be. I mean, obviously, we'll be keeping track of this case. But again, it says something. A Trump-appointed conservative federal judge is lashing out or criticizing the Trump administration, indicating that he believes they shipped a U.S. citizen, a 2-year-old U.S. citizen, to a foreign country without meaningful due process. It's stunning stuff. It's stunning. And we're 3 months in, and Donald Trump's authoritarian impulses in so many ways are so much worse than I think so many suspected. There we are. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.